Hello and welcome back to this course of videos on MongoDB. In this video we'll be looking at updating documents within our collection. So to get started we're going to use our db dot and then our collection name as we normally do, which is customers. Now in this case the method that we're going to use is update. Now within update there's a few different parameters that we can pass, all of them being objects. Now the first parameter that we pass is the field, sorry not the field, we have to identify the document that we wish to update by passing a particular field. Now I'm going to pass the ID field and I want to update the document with an ID of 1. So this is telling this object tells Mongo which document we want to update. Now, the second object that we pass, we are going to use a keyword and a command in Mongo called set. Now, this is telling Mongo the field that we want to change and what we change it to. So, within set, I put my colon. So set is the key part of a key value pair. The value is another object. Now this object is, I'm going to put in the field name that I want to change. Now as this is an array, I'm actually going to have to specify which of the two values within the array I want to update. And I do this interestingly with dot notation, and I put a 0. So this is saying JavaScript is 0 based counting. So this is saying this particular email address is the one that I wish to update because it's the 0th. This is the 0th. This is the first. So email address.0. Now I also need to put quotations around this. Otherwise Mongo will not recognize it. And then I need to say, what do I want to change this value to? And I'm going to change it to Jimmy. I would like to change my email from james@gmail.com to jimmy@gmail.com. So this is how you would update a document in MongoDB. I'm just going to close off my parenthesis there, and I'm going to run this, and it's updated my record. So now if I have a look at my customers table, you can see it's updated this email address. Now, how about if I wanted to update, say for example, my reviews array. So my reviews array is different to my email addresses array. My email address array just has two primitive objects in their strings, but my reviews field actually has a more complex array because it has embedded objects within it. So the syntax for that update is similar to our previous one, but we do have to make a few changes. So I'm just going to borrow one we did before. So we're still updating, this is the criteria, an ID of 1. But instead of email addresses, we're actually updating the reviews field. Now, we're still using the .0 because we still need to tell Mongo which object to update. We have 3 objects in our array, and we need to update the 0th. So we're just going to use the 0 reference here. And then I also need to say which field within the 0th object of the array that I wish to update. And I wish to update book 1. So I'm just going to say book 1. Now I want to change my review from 8 to 9. So if I run this now, that's worked okay. I look at my revised customer collection and this particular document that we changed, and you can see book 1 has changed to 9. Now Before we move on, let's look at the same thing in our MySQL database. So if I look at my customer emails, again, because in MySQL we have normalized our database and created separate tables for each entity, I don't have any embedded arrays or anything like this that we had to deal with when we were doing our updates before, this drilling down into reviews and into the reviews array, and then referencing a field in the sub-object. Here everything's normalized, so to update my email address, I just use this notation. It's the update keyword, tells us which tells us which table we'd like to update. So on the NoSQL side, that is equivalent of here. I have my customers collection name here. Then, so my update keyword obviously is this on the NoSQL side. Then I say set. I use my set keyword, which is actually similar to the keyword we used here. Set email address is equal to jimmy@gmail.com. So here I had, this was what I was setting my email to. Then we say our where statement, and our where statement is equivalent to this first parameter that we passed. So you see here, this first parameter, I said, that's my where, id equals 1. However, in this, because again, down to the fact that this table structures are different, I am simply saying where email address equals james@gmail.com, which is really, I'm referencing that really through here. I'm saying email addresses .0, that was the equivalent, my reference of what I'm saying here, where email address equals james@gmail.com. But you can see there is some similarities here. Now, what if we ran the update method using a field that doesn't currently exist? We'll see what happens here. So I'm going to run my update method. And so first of all, as always, we have to pass in our selection criteria to say which document do we want to update. So I'm going to update the document with an ID of 1. And I'm going to put in my second object, which is going to contain my set command. And then we put our second sub-object in here to say what we want to set. Now, I want to set a field of shoe size to 11. Now, shoe size doesn't exist. There is no shoe size field in this particular document with the ID of 1. So if I actually run this now, you will see it did update one existing record. So let's take a look at what happened. And you can see it just added this extra field. So using an update statement, I was actually just using in this update statement, I was able to add this field to my document. Now, let's say I changed my mind and I didn't like that. I wanted to actually remove that particular field from my document. That's a very similar syntax, apart from I use unset. And for unset, when the sub-object where you're telling the field that you wish to unset, I just have to pass a 1 there. So true, like true, a boolean, like true or false. So if I run this, that's update as well. And if we go back into our customer's document, you can see that this has now, the shoe size field has now been removed. Now, if we switch back to the NoSQL side, in order to add a field, so add this field of shoe size, it's actually a two-step process. although on the NoSQL side, one statement added the field, and so it was previously looking like this. We set. So one statement added this field and also populated the field with a value for this particular ID. Now, in order to do that on the SQL side, we would have to have two statements. And remember, on the SQL side, we can't just add fields on the fly as we do on the NoSQL side, because NoSQL Mongo is schemaless, so we can do things like add these things on the fly. But however, on the relational SQL side with MySQL, we're dealing with schema. So the first thing we have to do is run this alter table command, alter table, and then the table name. Then we have to add our column, and again, back to the schema, we have to set the schema for this particular column before we can do anything. So I'm just going to execute this, and you'll see now that our customers table, we have added our shoe size. So now that our shoe size field is added to our table, we can now go in and update the customers table to set the new shoe size field to 11, and I have to put in my where statement just to make sure we're only updating the field with an ID of 1 as equivalent to what we have here. So if I just run this now, we can see it successfully added. I go into my customers table and we can see that it has updated the shoe size field with a value of 11. Now the final thing we need to do is we are going to now remove this shoe size column, and that's relatively straightforward. Again, we are using our alter table statement or keyword, the same as we used to add the column. Instead of add column, we drop column and just give the column name. So I run this now. This is successfully executed, and we can see that the shoe size field has disappeared. And just to remind you, that was the equivalent of, on the NoSQL side, was the unset command, and we just had the value for the key value pair to specify the field to drop or unset. We just put a 1 there for true. So I hope this gives you a good introduction to the update method in NoSQL databases, and using the set and unset commands to both edit fields in documents and also add fields to documents. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.